What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Seminoles. As you can see, today's hosted by your boy Drake, and I got Dave alongside me because our fan favorite and one of our favorite segments to do, Triple D's, is back, aka Dunks, Dribbles, and Dimes. Today, we're going to discuss how we feel overall about FSU's basketball season. Then we'll look forward to Purdue and Syracuse, and what else do we need to see from this team moving forward for the rest of the year. But, Dave, let's get it.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Seminoles. Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's your boy, DJ Rogers, up in here, and I'm joined by Mr. David Wise. Davey, what's up, beautiful? What's going on? You look kind of dark over there. Like you in a cave or something?
Drake, it's it's the middle of the night here in New York at 5 p.m., of course. But I'm excited to not talk about football. Yeah, let's talk about a winning sport here.
Yeah, even though I will say that right now, the trajectories of both programs right now kind of look a little bit similar. But, folks, before we get into it, thank you all so much for making, Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. As always, today's episode is brought to you by Sonos. And, Dave, this basketball team, it's starting to make me pull my hair out a little bit because I feel that heading into the season, I had super high expectations, even though we all kind of knew the team was very young, so there were going to be growing pains. But did you think the growing pains were going to be this severe heading into the Purdue game today as we record this?
I mean, yes and no. It's funny because I feel the same way. I assume everyone listening feels the same way. And the reason we feel that way is because we've come to expect excellence out of a program that has been second fiddle at Florida State since its inception. The athletic department hasn't taken basketball seriously, and the basketball team and Leonard Hamilton has forced everyone to. And we're now expecting like an undefeated season inexplicably, when that's completely unrealistic unless you're Gonzaga and play absolutely nobody. But no, I mean, it's been frustrating that some of the games have been closer than I thought they would be. We probably could or should be undefeated right now. Just the Florida game still lingers, probably more so because we just lost them in football, but I still think we're a better team than them. And this team is going to get better. It's typical of a Leonard Hamilton team where we've had elite players come in and they've had short stints and left for the NBA, and we've reloaded. We haven't had to rebuild, we've had to reload. And when you reload, you're relying on freshman talent, and that's just going to take time.
Yeah, and I mean, because we were used to, because last year we had Scotty Barnes come in, and he was an immediate difference maker. I mean, he was a 5-star for a reason. And then the year before, you had just a disgusting roster from, Trent Forrest, who's been there for year in, year out, who had the torch, passed down to him by Terrence Mann. Then you have Patrick Williams, who was the one and done and what became a lottery pick out of nowhere. And then Devin Vassell, too, who just rounded out into his development wise. He became sort of our go-to guy and a prolific scorer. And it is kind of different feeling that now we're watching a team go through growing pains more than that we're used to, because we typically have a sort of a deeper team. But now we're seeing Matthew Cleveland, Cameron Fletcher to an extent, Jalen Warley kind of grow in front of us on the court. And I think that's something that probably Ham is, having to adjust to, because I don't think he even saw the learning curve being this steep for him, for his squad.
Yeah, and look, it's unfortunately, I don't think we know a lot about this team yet. We know that this is what we know so far. The defense is outstanding. In both Ken Pom and Bart Torvik, they have us as a top 20 defense. That's almost never going to be an issue with a Leonard Hamilton team. We're always going to have length on basically anybody we play. The issue, as I'm sure anybody that's watched Florida State basketball this year realizes, has been the offense.
We can't shoot, man.
Can't shoot, man. We really can't. And it's so frustrating. And that seems to be one of the problems every year with Florida State teams. Like, we're so much more athletic than most teams we play that we can get away with slashing to the hoop, getting to the free throw line, just typically from popping some threes when we have that available to us. But this year, my God, I brought up to you our 2 and 3 point shooting ranks the other day, and I think it was 80-something and 60-something respectively. And you made the comment that, wow, that's way better than I expected.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be actually immensely worse because like when you said 80, I think from the field we were 80%, but we were
Yeah.
60% from three, and I was like, that sounds like awfully high if we're being honest here between the two of us.
Yeah, from watching the games, it sure doesn't look that way. And all things considered, the good news is that, for example, on Bart Torvik, we're still a top 25 ranked team with a top 20 defense and a top 35, I think, offense. And if I think on Ken Palm, we're a little lower ranked in offense. But the fact that it's looked this ugly, we still only have one loss, and our offense still hasn't found its rhythm. If we can still get W's while we're finding our identity as a team, especially on offense, that's going to portend well for the rest of the year.
I can get behind that, and also the one loss being to a Florida team that I know you say that we probably should have won that game. That Florida team actually has some solid transfers. I think they had the Boston College kid who was the defensive player of the year last year for the conference, and also they have Colin Castleton, who we knew was going to be kind of a problem this year, but this year he's been a problem because right now they're 6-0. I think they're top 20 in the country right now too, and that's a pretty damn good team. And I know people are going to be very, very ho-hum about the overtime win against Boston University. Boston University, I had that as like a sneaky difficult game because that's a team I think that has like super seniors due to COVID, like 6-year players like all across the board.
Yeah.
And we are definitely going to be the youngest team probably in the ACC this year. So it's not going to be as clean as we want it to be, but I definitely see Coach Ham as someone that I can get behind where he's going to be able to mold them into a solid team come tournament time.
Yeah, Drake, if I were to ask you this question, tell me your answer. Who are the top three scorers on this team so far?
Probably Malik Osbourne,
Yep,
Matthew
number one.
Cleveland.
Number two.
And he takes a lot of shots, so I'm going to go Caleb Mills.
That's 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, that's kind of who you expected going into the year. So that makes me feel better that at least the scorers that we expected to are doing it, and they're all averaging 10 points a game or more. So that's good. I think you should probably see some more efficiency from the three of them even. One of the problems for me is the three-point shooting. Anthony Polite is shooting under 33% from three. He was supposed to be our three-point sharpshooter. We said how important that was going to be to this team to drive to the rim, kick out to an open Anthony Polite. He's got to knock those down. If this team's going to be dangerous, we're living in the era of three-point basketball, both at the professional and collegiate level. And if we're not going to be hitting threes, I think Malik Osbourne's leading the team in three-point percentage. That's great, but that can't work all year.
He is. But before we do a deeper dive into the players individually, which I think is a good segue for that, let me tell you guys about our friends over at NetSuite. Folks, this is it. It's the putt to win the tournament. If you sink it, the championship is yours. But on your backswing, your hat falls over your eyes. Is this how you're running your business? Poor visibility because you're still relying on spreadsheets and outdated finance software? To see the full picture, go over and you need to upgrade over to NetSuite by Oracle. Now, over 20,000 businesses already use NetSuite, and right now, through the end of the year, NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/lockedonNCAA. Head on over to netsuite.com/lockedonNCAA for special end-of-year financing on the #1 financial system for growing businesses. netsuite.com/lockedonNCAA, and let them know the Locked On Seminoles, your boys over here, Drake, Max, and Dave, sent you over there. And once you're done with that, head on over to Max's favorite app, Prize Picks. Folks, discuss this a lot. I acknowledge them now that college football season is coming to a close. We'd be remiss if you can take Anthony Polite over, under, 3 points made, maybe under, depending on how the season's going on right now. Malik Osbourne over, under for rebounds. So head on over to Prize Picks with the app. Use promo code Locked On. As Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. And it's always a good time. We all enjoy it here, and they will match up your first deposit up to $100, up to 100%. Now, promo code is Locked On, LOCKEDON. Prize Picks, where fantasy is made easy. So, Dave, you brought up a really interesting point where the team is kind of like the people that we relied on. Some of them have kind of stepped up to the plate, Malik Osbourne, and there have been other players that we've seen kind of take a regression. Dave, could you point out to see what is the crux, I guess, of our problems right now? Is it because we're too young? Is it just, just a different feel? Like, what exactly do you think is the main issue with this team right now?
Well, Malik Osbourne's playing to the level I expected him to play to. I think you'll see even more out of him as the year goes on. But look, the starting rotation had some weak points in it. Rayquan Evans is what is he, a fifth-year player in this system, I think?
I believe so.
He's an upperclassman, and he's somebody that you should expect veteran leadership from him. And I'm not going to knock his leadership. I think he's a great guy to have out on the floor, and I think we're fortunate to have someone like him in our lineup. But he's the kind of guy that I would expect to be averaging double-digit-ish points per game. He's only averaging 3 assists per game, and I would expect a lot more assists again out of that position on the floor. So he's going to be the key to if this team's going to gel. I think it's going to require him to play at a higher level. He's not Trent Forrest. He is who he is. He's a good player, but if this team's going to gel, he's going to need to be dishing the ball, or Caleb Mills is going to have to step it up in the assist game too. One of the two is going to have to be having a lot more assists, because I don't like where our assist numbers are at. And it's one of those weird things where if you go down the line, you look at the roster, you look at the season stats, the points look good. Like, you have 3 guys into averaging double figures. You have 9, 8, 7. Like, there's guys scoring points. It just feels like any given game, you're not sure where they're going to come from, or if any of those guys who are averaging 7 and 9 are going to put up a dud. And with 2 of them being starters, Rayquan Evans, and I think he who shall not be named, has been out of the starting lineup, thankfully, right? We're gonna have to find a solid 5 that we're gonna be able to rely on when it comes to tournament time, because this is still a tournament team.
Yeah, and I think what the problem is basically, I think it does boil down to poor shooting, and whether it be shot selection. I think our bottom 3 of our starters, which include Caleb Mills, Rayquan Evans, and Anthony Polite, they all shoot less than 40% from the field, which typically on a team, you want them, of our average folks, you kind of want them in the 45 to 50% range. Typically, you hear 50% from the field, 40% from 3, and then 90% from the free throw lines. Like, kind of the barometer that you want for, an above average player, or basically one of your starters. And just to see that kind of stat line, I know Caleb Mills, like, he takes a lot of shots, whether that be to the basket. He's a volume shooter, so you're gonna get a lot of those misses. But when you see an Anthony Polite, who last year could not miss anything. Like, he was a sharpshooter. Like, to me, he reminds me a lot of Duncan Robinson in the NBA right now. You put him anywhere when he's on fire, he cannot miss at all. But this year, it just seems nothing is falling, and it's whether it's too hard or it's too soft. I saw him airball a shot the other day, and I'm like, this is not the same. This is not the same Tony Polite we saw last year that we were all excited to come back. And for me, moving forward, I need to see them be smarter with their shots, and also maybe just slow down just maybe a little bit.
Yeah, one of the biggest things I think we've complained about, and you're having to nitpick to find issues with things that Leonard Hamilton's basketball teams do. One of the things we've complained about is that we go through these droughts. It almost doesn't seem to matter who the roster is, who the 5 are out on the floor. We just have these inexplicable droughts caused mostly by, you'll see us go down the floor, one guy, they'll just pass it around a little bit. One guy will decide, screw it, I'll ISO and just take a long 2-point jumper. It doesn't make sense. It's often not a good shot. And we seem to get in these 2-3 minute stretches where we do that 80% of our times down the court. Or we'll just force up a contested floater and don't draw a foul. Like you said, really questionable shot selection at times. And it's not just at times, it's 4 times, 4 periods of time. And that causes other teams to go on runs. And that's been a problem for the last 5 years.
So, Dave, who do you think is right now top 5 for minutes right now for the team?
Well, it can't not be Osbourne, Cleveland, and Mills. Beyond that, I would guess Evans has to be in there, and probably Anthony Polite at this point. Is that right?
Yep. So number 1 is Anthony Polite with 27, followed by Malik Osbourne, Caleb Mills, Matthew Cleveland, and Rayquan Evans. Number 6 is someone who I kind of want to see a little more playing time from. That's Cameron Fletcher.
Yeah.
I love every aspect of that kid's game where he's super aggressive. So to me, primarily, I need to see more minutes actually from him, because I think he's shooting around 48%. Actually, I think he's shooting better than that. Give me 1 second. Yeah, he's shooting 58% from the field. He's also shooting 60% from the free throw line, which is not great, but he's also shooting 42% from 3. So that's someone that you do by that baseline. He's actually performing much, much better than your stars in Polite and Rayquan Evans. So why don't we see more of him move forward? And that's kind of what I want to see with Coach Ham.
Yeah, people may forget he's a Kentucky transfer, and he's absolutely a Kentucky quality player. He had his issues there, and there was a mutual parting of ways, but we have a Kentucky quality player. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say Kentucky is better than Florida State or Florida State's better than Kentucky. At this point, I'm not sure Florida State isn't better than Kentucky, especially over the last half decade. But we need those kind of quality players. And I absolutely want to see him get more minutes. And what's interesting about you asking who has the most starting minutes or the most minutes is that's a really short lineup. I'm not short, but that's a centerless lineup. And I said before the season, one thing that's going to be important to figure out is who the hell is the starting center for this team? Like, you can play small ball against a lot of teams, and against a lot of teams we've played, it's made sense or we've been able to get away with it. But against better or bigger teams, we're going to need that 5. And is it Tanner Ngom? Is it Naheem McLeod? Is it John Butler? Again, I still don't think we have the answer to that. And I suspect we'll get to this shortly, but 2 out of those 3 are about to not be available for us in one of our biggest games of the season.
Damn, Dave, you are getting so good with these lead-ins, so good with these transitions. Because, folks, he is right. We will discuss actually the Purdue and the Syracuse game because the news has already hit Twitter that, certain players will be out for the game. But before we get there, I would be remiss if we can talk about our friends over at Boost Mobile. Y'all, you listen to podcasts for the power of knowledge. You switch to Boost Mobile for the power of saving money. Get 3 unlimited data lines for $30 a month per line and a free 5G phone when you switch. So you can get the latest episodes all on one of America's largest 5G networks. More power to save with Boost Mobile. Folks, there's a disclaimer real quick. Free phone limited to new customers and 1 per line. Additional restrictions may apply. Offers, coverage not available everywhere or for all phones and network. Go over to boostmobile.com for the full details and make the switch today. And once you're done on boostmobile.com, head on over to betonline.ag, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your latest sports action. We're going to do a really quick, betonline.ag line of the day with our boy Dave over here. Dave, I'm going to give you a conference game odds. I'm going to give you one for Friday. Friday Night Lights. Okay. It is UTSA versus Western Kentucky. UTSA is a plus 1.5 point underdog against Western Kentucky. Who are taking in this game?
Drake, I have 2 words for you here. I don't need to know anything more. I got my pick. 2 words. Meet.
Meet.
Baby.
So, folks, do you know what that means? You take UTSA plus 1.5, or if you want to go with the fade Dave, take Western Kentucky minus 1.5, because trust me, I think that's where Danny's leaning. And after that statement from Dave just now, I might be leaning that as well. So head on over to betonline.ag, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all the latest sports action. Now we're going to wrap up today's show. Folks, thank you so much for sticking around with us today. As you can see, I've had a little technical difficulties around here, but we are here. We're adjusting. Dave is out in his car right now in the freezing winter, the tundra that is New York. So, Dave, we have games this week. We have 2.
Yeah.
We have Purdue for the Big Ten Challenge today, as you're listening to this. And then we start conference play with Syracuse on Saturday. So with Purdue, you alluded to the missing, starting lineup for several players. Can you tell the audience, who exactly are we missing and what's the lasting effects of missing them out?
Yeah, so Rayquan Evans is going to be out for this game, dealing with a death in the family. Tanner Ngom's also going to be out, as is Naheem McLeod. So we are going to be without 2 of our 3 basically available 7-footers. John Butler is going to be the skinniest big man ever to play against number 2 ranked team, statistically. Just kidding. But yeah, that's going to be tough for us, man. We're going up against the number 2 offense and number 2 overall team in the country. It's a 36th ranked defense, so there's going to be opportunities to score against them. But that's a team that can score, and they do it at a slow tempo. And that's those teams that drive me nuts. It's like those Michigan teams we always seem to go up against in the tournament.
Same with Virginia too.
Yeah, man, I hate these slow tempo teams. It really irritates me. And they run slow, but they score. And that's going to be an issue, missing a guy from our starting lineup and 2 of our 3 big men. And in a kind of role reversal, we play a team in Syracuse on Saturday or over the weekend that has a top 25 offense, but does it at a faster tempo than we play at. Florida State has, in my view, played an uncharacteristically slow 145th ranked tempo. I expect us to run a lot quicker than that. I think you'll see that climb pretty steeply as the season goes on, but we're going to face a really talented Purdue team that's going to slow the game down, and then we'll turn right around and play a Syracuse team that I genuinely think we should just beat up and down the floor, but that can score even though they have a really bad defense.
Yeah, and the issue with folks, I'm fully going into this Purdue game, quite frankly. I had this circle as one of our earlier losses of the year, and to me, that's not a bad loss. Purdue, I kind of had as a potential Elite Eight, maybe a Final Four team. They're led by,
Yeah.
I want to say, senior center Travion Williams, and this is probably Matt Painter's the head coach actually at Purdue, where probably one of the best teams there, and they are coming back with Jay Ivey and Zach Edey, who are sophomore players, so they already have the year under their belts. And Purdue, like Dave said, that's a physical team, that's a slower paced team, and they play old school Big Ten basketball, and that has all the makings of something that we're going to struggle with, especially because our team is that young, and that only has been with the team for so very long. And then with Syracuse is I know this is where I guess name syndrome kind of comes into play a lot more.
Definitely.
Because, Jim Boeheim is still the head coach there. I know Buddy Boeheim is still there as well, Coach Boeheim's son. To me, the Syracuse team is not that very good. Quite frankly, if it wasn't for, I want to say, Boston College, they probably would be the cellar dweller actually of the ACC. So in my personal opinion, we should probably take, 1-on-1, hopefully kick off conference play. And then we have a full week off until the next Sunday, which I think is the 11th. I think is the next game actually after that on the schedule against a D2 team. So hopefully we can leave these two games, taking 1-for-1.
Yeah, I don't think this is a week that you can leave 0-2. I think that would set back the momentum of both the team and I think the fan base. Not that the fan base's feelings really matter. It matters how the team's playing. But ending this week with 3 losses would be tough for me to swallow for a team as talented as Florida State against, again, like you said, really talented Purdue team, a team we probably at this point in the year, I think we're catching them at the wrong time. I would say likely to lose to. They're one of the most well-rounded basketball teams in the country. That's going to be a tough game to win, much less without 3 of your players. Even with our full complement of our lineup, that'd be a tough game to win. We're going to have to outscore them. That's the only way we win that game. So those poor shot selections, those droughts, those can't happen. We're going to have to outshoot Purdue. And if we do lose that game, I don't see how we lose to, like you said, a total name syndrome Syracuse basketball team. This isn't the Syracuse of your mom and dad's days or your childhood days. It's just a bad Syracuse team. And our roster is better. We need to leave this week, like you said, with a week off, with a little bit of momentum. We got to get these young guys feeling good. Momentum is such a real thing in basketball. When you get on a hot streak, when you're shooting well, it matters. And that's the kind of game where we need to get some of these kids going.
Yeah, I mean, in the words of, Amin El-Hassan, citing Rick Pitino, Carmelo Anthony ain't walking through that door. Jerry McNamara and walking through that door. Michael Carter Williams, Deion Waiters, Elijah Hughes, none of them are walking through that door. And the Syracuse team, it's pretty damn bad. I mean, we have over on Locked on ACC where one of the hosts, Tyler Rocky, he hosts Locked on Syracuse, where typically they look for football to carry them over to basketball season to be that good enough. Right now, they're kind of hoping that it was football season all over again. Now, before we kind of go, Dave, I kind of want to ask you, what do you expect from which big man do you think you need to see take that next step up to kind of solidify that, to anchor that center spot? Could it be a John Butler? Could it be a Naheem McLeod? That's kind of where my money's at right now. Or could you see just a random, Tenor Engum actually take that step, even though we lamented him, for the past few years?
I'm not going to say anything bad about anybody. I just don't think Tanner Engum is that guy. I don't know that he's not capable of it. I just don't know that he's an FSU starting quality center, especially against better teams that's going to be able to stand his ground out there, especially win us games. But Butler's really exciting, man. He has a little bit of a Balsha Koprivica look to him where he looks like, again, he's young and he's going to take time to develop, and he's really, really skinny. I think within the last year, I've weighed more than him, and I'm 5'8.5" on a good day. And if I say the half, I mean I'm short. Yeah, he needs to gain some weight, but I really like his game. I think he could develop an offensive game that from the 5 spot is going to be challenging for a lot of other teams to compensate for. Naheem McLeod, he's a bigger guy and he's got tools, but I'm not going to bullshit you. I have no idea. And I said that before the year. None of us have any idea. We don't even know if any of the three of them are going to be able to develop into what we need from the 5 spot. And if not, you're going to see a small lineup all year. And we may be able to get away with that. I don't know. There's so many things about this team that we don't know. And in a weird way, it's like mysteriously exciting. So I'm okay with it.
I can get behind that. It's gonna be a fun year, folks, because you do see the ACC is kind of like on an upturn right now. UNC actually is playing a little bit better. Duke has probably one of the best players I've ever seen in Paolo Banchero right now, the big man who absolutely schooled Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga on Friday night. So I am actually very excited to cover that game too as well. And folks, we're just happy to have Triple D's back, aka Dunks, Dribbles and Dimes. It's something that Dave and I started with the podcast last year with Noles Anonymous. Now we're bringing back this year. It's gonna be a weekly basketball centered podcast where we discuss the team as a whole. And folks, as always, thank you all so much for the love and support. Now, please, if you can, don't forget to rate, review, like, share, or subscribe either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast from. And also, we're on YouTube now. You can see me in all my beautiful bearded glory. I'm shaving this soon, by the way, folks. I know. Trust me, I got it from my mom and my parents and my friends. And all of you want to see Dave's, beautiful face, even though looks like he's kind of he's in a cave somewhere, just deep down underground. Head on over to the YouTube page, hit the like button on this video, hit the subscribe banner at the top, and also ding the little bell so you'll know whenever new content drops. Because we do have our Bowl Spectacular coming up, very, very soon, where Dave, Max, and myself pick the games. And as I'm the only one that watches every single game, you can watch how Dave and Max pick their games and pick their winners solely based on mascots, uniform colors. So, folks, for myself, Drake, that was Dave. We'll see y'all next time on Locked on Seminoles.
Got those bags, Big Mike.